And we are back with Issue Today, and reporter Angela Chung has joined me in the studio. Good morning, Angela.
Good morning, Sian.
TGIF.
Yes, and the weekend.
Yes. And it's kind of delayed, but happy Chuseok. Hope you had a good one.
Yes, I did.
Yes, you visited your in-laws, right?
Yes, for the first time.
Uh-huh. And how was that?
It was fun, and I had a lot of good food, so I
Great.
feel like I have more energy.
Uh-huh. You had some 보양식, maybe?
Yes, a lot of meat, a lot of seafood, so all sorts of good food for your health. So.
Okay. Well, I don't know how you do it, but you don't look like you ate anything over the yeah. So I congratulate you for keeping it under wraps. All right, let's turn to our first news item. We're going to start with something quite deep and dark, though. I mean, a lot of people will remember the horrible nth room criminal case. Especially parents these days must be very worried about digital sex crimes targeting children and adolescents. Apparently, they are on the rise. But there's been some progress on that front to hopefully prevent such cases.
That's right. The Ministry of Gender Equality and Family said the revised Act on the Prevention of Children and Adolescents Against Sex Offenses will go into effect today, September 24th, to prevent online grooming cases.
Right. Online grooming is a term that we have been hearing a lot more on the news, but can you define what it is for us once again?
Yes, online grooming refers to a new type of sexual crime accompanied by the development of information, communications, and technology. And they include continual and repetitive attempts at conversations that cause a sense of sexual desire, shame, or even disgust. Acts that induce or ask sexual behaviors with the aim of sexually abusing children and adolescents are referred to as online grooming.
Right. So unfortunately, the proliferation of smartphones and all this online activity leaves our younger children and adolescents more sort of exposed to this kind of crime. So what's going to change exactly with this revised act?
So under this new act, undercover investigation or identity concealment investigation by police will be allowed to investigate digital sex crimes toward children and adolescents. Acts of online grooming will be subject to criminal punishment such as less than 3 years in prison or less than 30 million won. And this new act is particularly meaningful as the police can investigate in advance before the case happens. So traditionally, the police intervention was hard before the incident actually happened, even if the potential victim reported it to the police. But now police investigation is possible, which I think will be of great help in preventing such crimes.
Yes, let's hope so. Moving on to our second item, it's about housing. Now, we know that housing prices have just gone through the roof over the past years. Now, the Seoul City government has come up with a new measure to better use existing residential land.
That's right. Seoul City government is now reviewing a measure to increase the floor area ratio of public housing in subway adjunct area from the current 500% up to 600% floor area ratio. This is part of Seoul City's plan to lay out a measure to improve operation criteria for public renting housing in these areas by the second half of this year in order to promote greater participation from the private sector.
Public rental housing system. This is also something that might be unfamiliar, especially to our overseas listeners. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Sure. Under the public rental housing project near subway adjunct areas, private businesses build houses. And then Seoul City government does the upzoning for these areas so that the area could have greater housing availability. After the upzoning is completed, Seoul City government supplies have to increase floor area in the form of public rental housing, such as the long-term rental housing system.
Okay. And upzoning, can you give us an example of that?
Yes, for example, under the public rental housing project, a class 2 general residential area with 200% floor area ratio will be raised to a semi-residential zone, which has a floor area ratio of up to 500%. Seoul City government's intent is to add additional incentive to this system so that a larger number of private companies would participate in this project. So if Seoul City government approves floor area ratio incentives, the new ease criteria are going to apply to 43 business sites.
And hopefully these measures will go to ease the housing shortage, especially affordable housing shortage in the greater capital area. Moving on to our last item now. It's about banks. Now, Angela, since you are the MZ generation or Z generation, right?
I'm the
Z?
M.
The M, okay. So let me ask you, do you use like a traditional bank anymore, or what kind of bank services do you use?
Yeah, so since I've been getting my income through the traditional bank, a lot of companies require a certain bank for their convenience.
Oh, they
so
do.
I do use the traditional bank starts with S, one of the big ones. But these days I've been using Kakao Bank a lot because to transfer money easily. Just in many ways, I feel like it's so much easier.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know a lot of people now who go traditional bank to do sort of offline sort of transactions. I know couples who still don't trust in the online system. But when it comes to transferring funds like between friends, that K-Bank or the Kakao Bank is so useful because you don't even need to know their numbers, right? It's just possible to directly pass it on to them.
That's
So
right.
apparently it's not just you or me. There are a lot of people using this bank because of its convenience. And then, of course, they have those lovable characters that
They
we're so
do.
familiar with as well. So all those reasons are kind of fueling a very, very strong growth.
And it's not just a transfer. It actually involves the loan services because Kakao Bank literally dominated the household loan market this year. And I remember my friends recommending this bank for a loan when I was preparing for my wedding early this year, when I needed a large sum of money all of a sudden. I just wanted to look up the interest rate, and all my friends said, "Oh, just don't even bother going to a bank. Just look up the Kakao Bank."
Because it has the lowest rate or the
Yes,
best rates?
at the
Really?
time, yes.
Interesting.
So as of June this year, Kakao Bank accounted for 9% of the total increase in household loans from 18 banks compared to last year. And among people in their 20s, Kakao Bank took up 164% of the total loan increase from 20 banks. A figure exceeding 100% means when taking up loans, they are choosing Kakao Bank over other banks for loan. So this trend is seen as a signal that the fight between traditional banks and internet banks to win the lion's share in the loan market has begun.
Now, you said that it's very popular among people in their 20s, and I assume it's because they're most sort of familiar with the online banking system itself?
That's right. Those aged between 19 and 29 are more familiar with the mobile environment, and customers' perspectives on banks changed as well. A man in an interview said he chose Kakao Bank because it's convenient and all other banks offer the same interest rate for loans, so he didn't need to visit one anyway. One bank he had visited asked him to revisit and to submit some papers, but with Kakao Bank, all he needed to do was just to take pictures of the papers and send them. So it is also viewed that Kakao's strong sales initiative for the youth, 전세 loan guarantee, also worked.
All right, we'll have to see how that banking landscape further changes. But thank you now for those updates. Angela, have a great restful weekend. We'll see you
Yes.
again on Monday.
You too.